I believe we are now recording. Um,
Hello.
hello, hello. I'll cut out all this bullshit after the fact.
That's good. And I'll start saying slurs after and before recording.
Yeah,
Attendance was 20,067 exactly.
holy smokes, dude. Um,
Wikipedia says, and I trust Wikipedia.
I mean, that's probably the accurate. Um,
I mean,
you're the
point.
Wikipedia information on this pod, Andrew.
We got $16.5 million made in ticket sales. So if we do some quick math here,
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm waiting, Andrew. You're giving us too much dead air. We're just, by the way, we're gonna like not have an official
this
start to this.
average cost of a ticket was $822 American.
Okay.
That's probably. I mean, I could have gotten a fucking Ticketmaster and seen what they're actually going for, but we're doing it that way instead. Okay, so let's get started. UFC 300. How did it
Whoa,
go?
dude. Yeah, no, it fucking rocked. For a start, let me just say this: the drought is over. The lean times are gone. We finally had a good fucking UFC card. It took UFC 300 to get us out of this fucking slump that we've been in for like a year of mostly shitty fight cards. Uh, will this mean anything going forward? Probably not. But at least we got one good night of fights, and that last fight was everything I wanted it to be. Alex Pereira took Jamal Hill's head off with like a glancing punch to the cheekbone, still completely flatlined Jamal. You can see his eyes roll back into the fucking back of his head as he goes down. It's a beautiful sequence. And if you haven't seen it, you deserve to look it up. Like, you have to. Because here's the exact sequence of events that ends the fight. Jamal Hill kicks Alex Pereira in the cup. It's loud. You can hear it on the broadcast. Okay, you can hear the cup getting kicked. It's not some, oh, he hit him in the thigh. Then the ref comes over to stop it. Alex Pereira puts up his fucking hand and says, "No, I have this." The ref says, "Okay, fight." Pereira walks forward, and again, exactly, he grabs Jamal Hill's front hand. He pulls away his hand, which drops it. Then he steps forward, puts his foot on Jamal's foot so he can't get away, and throws the fucking uppercut that knocks him out. It is such a beautiful. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. It is an excellent sequence. Pereira becomes his own referee and doles out a worse punishment than losing a point for kicking him in the dick. I think it's a beautiful thing. What do you got to say, Andrew? What do you think?
It was fun watching people punch each other. That was really my takeaway from this engagement. I went it really quick.
Yeah,
It was just like a sudden, just like, oh, the fight started. Oh, he's on the fucking ground. That
yep.
didn't last very long. Didn't go the distance at all. That was like a minute or two into the first round. It was just like,
Yeah,
it was
3 minutes
Jamal
14
didn't even know he
seconds
got
into
punched too.
round
Was the
one.
best part. He just got hit, and he's like, oh, I thought I was still punching.
Well, and
Yeah, of
actually too,
course,
right? Like,
fucking Alex had
as
fucking
Pereira
he
was
knocked him
taunting,
down.
right, the ref had to stop Jamal Hill from jumping up and trying to wrestle him, which is always a great signature of a good KO. Is your opponent jumping to his feet thinking he's still in a fight? That usually shows you that you completely pulled the power cord out. Um, but yeah, there really isn't a whole bunch more to say about this fight. We all knew that Pereira was going to decapitate Jamal Hill. Anybody who said different is delusional and has not watched either of these guys fight. Um, Everybody has a puncher's chance, but dude, Jamal Hill's gut was getting in the way of any fucking punches he was throwing. So, um, yeah, not surprising at all. But at least a fun result. At least the fight ended the way it was supposed to end, and it did so artistically with a dick kick. You love to see it. Um,
Yes, it was a beautiful period to end a great night of fights. Really, it was a nice little, like, nice and poignant little match to end it all.
yeah, 100%. Before that was an okay women's strawweight title fight. We had our first ever all Chinese UFC title fight. Hold your applause. Honestly, like looking back on this fight, it really feels like Weili Zhang was able to reach into a much deeper chest of techniques than what Yan had access to. Yan seemed to be the fresher fighter for much of the fight. She seemed to have more power. Um, and
Except for the part when she actually got choked out right at the end of the first round, but just got lucky because the ref didn't notice.
that's
And so
I'm actually so happy you reminded me. That's like,
She had to
you
come
can forget
back
about
too.
that so easily too, right? But yeah, no, she had to come back too at the end of round one, and you can watch the ref like check her hand, and she like reacts with 5 seconds left. So you really can't blame the ref for not calling the fight, because then within 5 seconds she's out cold. But um, yeah, for her to then come back and maybe get smelling salts, I really don't know. I heard DC yelling about smelling salts. Maybe Yan got some smelling salts. Didn't help her enough though. Wei Li was still able to control her.
I mean, she had one round in her. At least that's also all the judges say. They scored it all 49-45, so he gave at least one round to Yan here. But yeah, Zhang definitely was dominant the majority of the entire fight. I think that second round she got a little bit unexpected because I guess she already figured she'd won, but it really was just Zhang just like T-posing on Yan the whole fucking time.
I wouldn't exactly say she was T-posing. Anytime they were on the feet, Yan was hurting Wei Li. And I'm pretty sure Zhang got dropped. I'm pretty sure she did. Now, we might have been a little bit inebriated while we were watching these fights, but I'm pretty sure she got dropped.
I'm looking at the one knockdown according to the official UFC stats for Yan in this fight.
I actually, it's so useful to have someone checking the stats on the bullshit I usually just say. Honestly, I don't have too much more to say about Weili Zhang versus Yan Xiaonan, which are two names that I can only get right if they're spelled out in front of me, and they are. So, moving on. This was the best
end
fight.
Of the Chinese Civil War. Yes.
Yeah. No, this was the beginning of the Chinese Civil War. These two girls are going to fight again. But anyways, moving up to lightweight, and the best fight on this entire fucking card, probably the best fight of the year, if only because of the ending sequence. I know a lot of those 5 rounds was a feeling out process between Max and Justin, where Max slowly but surely figured out exactly how to be safe against one of the most dangerous power punchers in the lightweight division, and then just picking him apart at distance. And something that you already know I'm going to bring up that I was freaking out about all night were the spinning back kicks from Max.
Oh, yes. That was absolutely beautiful.
We'll get to the ending sequence, which is legendary in and of itself, but there's few techniques I love more than the spinning back kick. It is such a versatile tool, and Max was using it defensively. He was using it as a counter, which is something that traditional martial arts will teach, but very few people will do. And it's because committing to that sort of a spinning attack while your opponent is coming at you, there's all sorts of bad situations that you can get yourself into if you've turned your back to your opponent while he was coming at you, right? It is a risky technique, but Max threw it like 6 times in this fight. And the first time that he threw it, he broke Justin's fucking nose. Like, this was just the premium.
All of them landed too.
And every single one of them landed. And the beauty of it is that this was a technique that Max has used previously. He's had his spinning back kick in his repertoire for a long time, but he didn't have a reason to use it until he's up against Justin, who loves to cover up with his forearms and duck his head. So if you aim your heel at his body, you'll either hit him in the gut or his face. And by the way, that broke his nose in round 1, which just like, think about it. So many people are just, oh, how are you going to beat this guy? There's so many fighters that are just heavy power punchers in the UFC. It is the simplest route to victory. I'll just chin my opponent and get an easy paycheck. Well, guess what? There is an entire there are huge disciplines. There are entire disciplines of martial arts that are ignored regularly. And guess what? Max found one of the good techniques out there, and he applies it to his game when necessary. And that's why he's a better fighter than Justin Gaethje. And I love Justin Gaethje, but I'm sorry, guys. I don't know if you saw the fucking thumbnail. He didn't make it. Andrew, tell us what happened in the last 10 seconds of the fight.
Well, before I get to that, I think if you just look at the stats on this fight, it actually tells a great story. Mm-hmm. So there's a total of 284 strikes, 181 by I'm bringing Max Holloway, and then 103 by Mr. Gaethje. 0 takedowns, 0 submission attempts, 0 reversals, just a whole bunch of punchings and 1 knockdown. That happened at 4:59 in the 5th round when Max pointed to the center of the octagon and they just started swinging. He had 10, I think it was 15 or 10 seconds left when he did it. And it was just a swing, and he gets him right at the end. Like, the best part is that Max didn't even get hit. Like, he got like maybe 1 or 2 shots. He got hit by there, and then he just fucking wailed on Gaethje too. He's like, "Oh yeah, we'll fight in the middle, and I'll just beat the shit out of you, because you can't hit me."
No, and he really couldn't. And he was hurt. He was tired. He couldn't breathe out of his nose. But I really, everybody already knows this, but it still has to be said, because he did this in a live, real UFC fight, and he's done it more than once. He's up 4 rounds at least, probably 5 rounds. He's won every single round. Max has nothing to gain by saying, "I will stand here and trade with you." In fact, it's the only way that Justin could have won that fight. Max extended his hand and said, "Try to knock me out. I will stand here and let you swing."
No, he backed up because he had Gaethje up against the cage, and he backed up and pointed to the center.
No, that's exactly what I mean. Is he said, like, "I won't try to get out of the way. I'm not going to back up. I'm not going to slide away. I will stand and throw punches with you." And he outgunned him. This is I'm at a loss for words, ladies and gentlemen, because he's done this before, and he did it the same way before. It's a gangster move, and Max is the only guy who's really ever done it at the appropriate time and succeeded with it. So I just think it's astounding. Also, watch this fight back. Look how thick Max's legs are. This boy really did prepare to come up to lightweight. I don't know if Max will stay at 155 pounds. I don't know if he plans on going back down to 145. We've all seen our Spanish champion not looking super enthusiastic about having to fight Max when he was getting called out there in the arena. Would Max be able to beat Islam Makhachev? I don't know, but he at least wouldn't be outsized in the way that Volk was. And also, how much did he get in bonuses? Can we hear how much Max got in bonuses last night?
He got, oh dear, so that fight there, 1 fight of the night and performance of the night for Mr. Max Holloway. So that was $600,000 American.
And we'll add that because a lot of us out here live with currencies that are more similar to Monopoly money. 600K American ain't bad. It ain't what he's worth, but you know what? It ain't bad. Next up was kind of a weird fight between Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan. And I say kind of a weird fight for a number of reasons. First of all, both of these guys were able to neutralize the other's offense as often as they weren't. Like, this was a really good defensive showcase by both guys. Arman, I don't know, man. Arman was just going for it. He would not be stopped. He would not be submitted. He was in some submissions that really looked like he was done for, except he wasn't. Dude's got a thick neck. Good luck choking him out. If Charles isn't doing it, I don't know how you're going to do it. Honestly, this one was kind of boring. One of our few decisions.
Boring, but it was also a very close fight. It was boring because it was mainly ground game. That was the exciting part. But, Arman, just surviving both of those rather significant submission attempts was rather impressive, especially when his face is the shade of a tomato.
Yeah, no, it is impressive to see an Armenian turned red. Honestly, I do feel kind of bad for Oliveira. He had his time to shine. It's just, lightweight is full of killers, and even if you are a killer, it really doesn't guarantee you any safety in this division. The fights that you can make at lightweight today are still mind-boggling, because now you could say, how about Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira? How about Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje too? How about, right? There's just so many. Ignoring the guys who are actually on this list right now, Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway 3? Oliveira versus Poirier. You know, there's a lot of good fights out there as long as you keep them away from Marteus Gamrot, because I really don't want him to get another like split decision win over a guy who's better than him. So in general, I would say that lightweight continues to be the most exciting division. It's awesome. These two guys had a good scrap. Now, moving on to the worst fight on the main card. This was the opener. If you paid for the pay-per-view like we did, this is what you were paying for to open. This is the definition of a gimme fight. They're feeding nobodies to a prospect.
Okay, first thing is you just look at the Vegas odds for this. So yeah. Vegas had this fucking fight.
Now hold on, who was fighting? Who was fighting? It was Bo Nickel.
Bo Nickel and Cody. I can't say that. Brundage. I didn't know who this guy was.
Well, and very few people
Cody, that is.
Now, they really want people to know who Bo Nickel is. They really think they have a talented prospect, and they want to push him as hard as they can. He's getting the Sean O'Malley treatment. I feel like he's one of these Dana White's Contender Series guys.
He only has 3... Oh, no. Well, he won his past 2 fights.
Well, he's 6-0 right now.
Yeah.
He's an undefeated prospect. He was a really impressive college wrestler. We're all tired of him already. I would like him to have to fight some actual competition. I know middleweight isn't a super deep division. They don't have a lot of great fighters at middleweight. I understand. But give him a real challenge. Give him someone that Vegas doesn't think he can beat. Make a fight that's interesting, please. And until then, I do not care about Bo Nickel.
We gotta be careful what we say about him, though. He might hear us.
I couldn't care less, dude. Though, actually, a good point. His ears are... he's got 2 antennas coming off his head there. Could pick us up from a ways off.
Even on, like, all the fucking fight photos, it's like I can hear you.
Anywhere he can hear you. Moving down to the prelims, I actually just want to take a moment to say that the prelims of UFC 300 were better than most pay-per-views last year. Is that really all that surprising? No, but I think we should still be talking about it. If the UFC wants to pump out all these shitty cards all the time, we should talk about it. They shouldn't be making these shit... Like, they should actually have the best fighting the best. It's their fucking tagline. Speaking of, these prelims were pretty good. Our first one was at light heavyweight. A good mirror of the main event even. We have the former champion Yuri Prochazka taking on Alexander Rakic. I hope I said either of those names correctly. Andrew, tell me what you thought of this fight, because this fight was a little bit crazy.
It was just a lot of just punching. Really all you need to really know.
Well, I would say that's
my memory of it's a little fuzzy. Is probably the right. My memory of this fight's a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
I was making a lot of jokes about haircuts here. I'm not going to lie. This fight did win the other one, Performance of the Night, for our good friend
Yuri.
Jiri. Okay, the R has like an angry face on it. Okay, I cannot read Czech. I cannot read Czech.
Fair.
I can't read English either. It's a problem. But this was a great fight. It was very intense. A lot of just because it ended with a It ended with a football hooligan knockout where you're getting punched kind of just continuously, and you really should watch him throw Alexander to the ground during the finishing sequence, because I feel like that deals more damage than most of the punches he throws. He steps to the outside of him as Rakic tries to get away because he's hurt, and he just throws him to the ground. It's a great sequence. Now, I really wish... Actually, so I did make notes. I did make some notes, guys, when I was watching these fights. And Yuri had basically the whole fight, though. It wasn't. It was rather like Alexander on the defensive, I felt like.
Wrong. This did end in round 2, and what you're forgetting is Alexander Rakic using like just regular, proper techniques to start to chop away at Jiri. Jiri had a welt on his calf from some very solid low kicks, and to be honest, he was just getting hit a lot. And it seemed like he wanted to get hit a lot. Jiri is kind of insane. This is not a secret. Everybody knows it. If you listen to his post-fight interview where he had to explain to Joe Rogan that he knows he's not really a samurai, but everyone has to believe in something. If you don't like Jiri Prochazka, you don't like MMA. Like, that's really the truth here. But what I did write down as like a little note while watching the fight, please just throw straight punches, Jerry. We all know that you can do all sorts of weird matrix shit, and you can stick your face in the other guy's face and get punched, and oh wow, you can take the punch. That's awesome. What if you just threw straight punches? What if you just used like the same reach as the main event guys had to throw straight punches? What if you learned proper technique? What if you quit throwing like jumping knees where your knee doesn't get past your own waist level? The crazy shit has to be a distraction for the authentic technique, or authentic technique has to be a distraction for the crazy shit. That's how this works. If your opponent knows what you're going to do, he will try to protect himself from it. And Jerry didn't win this fight by doing crazy shit. Like you said, he won this fight by throwing punches and by throwing like normal punches in range. And I'm pretty sure he just caught his opponent up against the fence. So I'm not Jerry's coach. Jerry probably doesn't even listen to his coach. He probably just runs out into the woods and plays samurai, and that's okay. It's working for him.
Just sitting underneath the fucking waterfall there.
Exactly. I'm going to have to go find a local waterfall and sit underneath it to meditate, to send him the message that straight punches work, and he could knock out most of the light heavyweight division if he just used straight fucking punches. And I don't mean straight punches coming from your hip at a weird angle, because you're sure no one can see them coming when you're gyrating like a giant inflatable arm man. You know what I mean? Like, everything you're doing is over the top and obvious. Your power is where your success is coming from, your physical characteristics, not your interpretive dance. But anyways, there's plenty of fighters who are making that decision. I'm happy that he won, by the way. I don't know if you guys can tell this. Alexander is kind of a boring fighter in my mind, and they still show off the Jimmy Manuwa knockout because he doesn't have newer highlights. He's really not that impressive. He is a hard-nosed light heavyweight, and there's 100 of those. Easily, like.
Oh, I want to point out that Yuri also just has giant fucking arms too, so he might.
But that's exactly what I mean. I have enormous arms and crazy reach. I'm gonna get directly in your face to punch you. You literally don't have to fucking no scope. You don't have to come around the corner and no scope. You could just use the sniper rifle as intended. But anyways. Some people just have to do it, man. So, and by the way, I think I've spoken the most about a prelim fight. So just make sure you're watching these fucking prelims sometimes, guys. Like, check out the prelims, see what's going on. Because if you just watch the pay-per-view, you missed out. That's the truth. Going down, we had Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling at featherweight. Aljo was coming up. He just lost the belt down to 135. He came up 10 pounds, which honestly is not a bad decision after you get iced by just the dorkiest looking dude in the UFC. But it happens to all sorts of guys now. And it was the right move. Pretty much exactly what I thought would happen in this fight happened in this fight. Sterling tried punching a little bit, didn't like it, and went to his base, went back to what got him to the dance, which is his wrestling and his grappling and his title of the Human Backpack. No one could carry more books to school for you than Aljamain Sterling. And he'll do it. You don't have to put the straps on yourself. He climbs right on, dude. This fight was mostly
the crowd hated this fight so much.
Yeah. Dude, this.
I mean, Sterling was just like, I don't want to be punched in the face, which is a fair point. You know, he has like 8 takedowns it has on here, 4 takedowns in round 1, 2 in round 2, and then you just won a unanimous decision. Like, yeah, you basically just like bolted yourself to that man's back, and you win the fight because he couldn't get you off.
Yeah, essentially. And I mean, he was always threatening submissions, but he was always threatening submissions against Petr Yan. Like, I'm so fucking sick of the backpack technique. Someone has to figure out how to stop it. I don't know who. Well,
I think it's just a more confident thing. Because you could see in the the Armin and Charles fight, there was a lot of attempts for takedowns, but they were getting reversals. It might have just been that good old Calvin just wasn't ready for the backpack technique.
Well, he should have been ready because it's what Aljo's known for. honestly, that's all I want to say about this fight. Calvin Kattar continues to disappoint me. There was a time where I thought he was pretty good. I think he beat Shane Burgos, and that's when I figured he was pretty good. And I've been proven wrong consistently since then. So, oh well. Goodbye,
The
Calvin
nickname, the
Kattar.
Boston Finisher, just sounds like, like a contracting company that does something. Work on that.
He does. Calvin Kattar has big contractor energy. Definitely a dude you've seen out at a job site. And speaking of dudes that you've seen out at a job site, down at women's bantamweight, Kayla Harrison makes her UFC debut against the prehistoric Holly Holm. Here's the simple narrative that they wanted you to understand with this fight. Holly Holm beat Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey was an Olympic judoka. She was very good at judo before she came to MMA. Holly Holm dethroned Ronda. Kayla Harrison is the second coming of Ronda. She's an Olympic judoka. But unlike Ronda, Kayla Harrison, the embryonic sac that she was grown in was steroid containing versus, let's say, the normal in utero development a human child goes through. So Kayla Harrison has shoulders wider than most of the male fighters after her on this card. I am usually for steroids in sport, but Kayla Harrison scares me in ways that I don't think I should be scared watching TV.
The Barbie Rumble was a little scary to watch, to be honest.
Yeah. Also, Holly Holm getting a reversal on Kayla Harrison, honestly impressive, but Holly, you probably
they don't even have the reversal on the official stats. They don't even have it. They just have it like fucking Kayla Harrison just like committing a domestic here or something, because there's like, total strikes 7 by Holly Holm and 68 by Kayla.
Yeah.
Takedown 0 by Holly and fucking 2 by Kayla. 1 submission attempt was successful, obviously, and then 51 significant strikes from Kayla and 2 from Holly. They don't even have the reversal on there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was in one scrambling sequence. And Kayla called it out in the post-fight interview as well.
It was very impressive, I will add.
Yeah, but like this was one-way traffic. Kayla was supposed to win this fight. They brought out the old ghost of Holly Holm to lose to our judoka. And
okay, but it wasn't as bad as the fucking Bo Nickel one, though.
No, but actually, next up, because I'm done with this Kayla Harrison fight. Honestly, I don't like Kayla Harrison. I just listen,
guys.
There's
a newsletter you can sign up for. I discovered. Because I'm finding out which fighters have their own webpage and which don't.
Well, there you go. If you really want to see what Kayla Harrison looks like, you can do that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, well, so the exact same... There's a lot of fights on this card that you can tell were set up with one fighter in mind to win. We talked about the Bo Nickel fight. We talked about the Kayla Harrison fight. Diego Lopez is getting the exact same treatment. I feel like people just don't know him enough to realize that he's getting it. And they probably don't know enough about his opponent, again, to realize what's happening here. Sadiq Yusuff was a prospect, is no longer a prospect, is at best a journeyman now. And listen, if you saw Arnold Allen versus Sadiq Yusuff, the verdict's out, guys. We already know. Sadiq can get hurt. He's not as fast as anyone thought he was. He's not as sharp as anyone thought he was. But the UFC is banking on you vaguely remembering him winning sometime and using him to prop up Diego Lopez. Lopez is another one of these guys who is just getting like first round knockouts. He's spazzing out as hard as he can in round 1. Wow, a minute 29 in round 1. KO, TKO against a gun-shy opponent. I wonder how that happened. I wonder if the matchmakers knew something like that might happen. This is a fight that was less interesting, just like Kayla Harrison, just like Bo Nickel, because I already know what's going to happen. At least Alex Pereira, when he was getting that same treatment, he gave us a little bit of a show. He did things that were interesting. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Kayla Harrison, Diego Lopez, Bo Nickel, and any of these guys. They're working hard, they're training hard. But this is a matchup that wasn't interesting because I already knew what was going to happen before it happened. And that's not why you watch these. Now, that was the last prelim, guys. But we're not done. You know what happened before the prelims?
Pre-prelims.
That's right. We have our early fight past prelims. And every single one of these fights very easily could have been a UFC Apex Fight Night main event. This card was pretty good. So our featured early prelim was Jalen Turner versus Renato Moicano. I really didn't believe in Money Moicano. I was telling Andrew here the whole time that Jalen Turner was probably going to mash his brains so bad he could never give a crazy post-fight interview ever again. And I was wrong. And Moicano, I don't know half of what he said in the post-fight interview. He was screaming.
He was very emotional.
He was very emotional. He wanted us all to know that he loves America, that he loves working hard and not getting paid very well. Joe Rogan was smiling ear to ear watching this man go insane, thinking, wow, I need him on my podcast. Alex Jones doesn't talk to me anymore. So, but to be fair, what Moicano did was pretty impressive. He was getting blasted very early on. Turner is a killer, guys. He is deadly. And he did almost knock Moicano out, but he made a mistake. He tried to go for a walk-away KO. He dropped Moicano, walked away, looked at the ref, and then had to keep fighting. And Moicano never stopped fighting. Money Moicano got it fucking done. Now,
knocked that happen. I was like, it's over. The ref didn't stop it. And fucking, he just came back and he was just relentless after that. It was just absolutely like it turned the whole fight around. It was just like, I don't know. It's like he fucking reset his brain and went, oh, right, I can win.
Well, yeah.
It was like near the end of the first round, too.
Yeah, it was. And then round 2, 4 minutes, 11 seconds. So it took him a little while. Moicano, from the get-go, was trying to get those takedowns. A very smart decision against a killer like Turner. And then Moicano showed us that he was just as dangerous, which is not something I really believed. So props to him. And another thing to give Moicano props for is that even though he's going for a grappling-based game, he was still trying to get his opponent out of there. So very impressive performance there. At women's strawweight, we had Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. Andrade gets the nod in what was a pretty bog standard women's strawweight belt fight. It's kind of sad seeing Jessica fight like a regular WMMA fighter. It's kind of sad to see that she has lost maybe that power that she used to have, a lot of that ferocity. She's still mean mugging girls like you wouldn't believe, but she just doesn't quite have that pop that she used to. There was a lot of moments in this fight where she was having a lot of trouble with the range of Marina Rodriguez. But on kind of the flip side of that, Marina Rodriguez really looked like she didn't know how to walk at times, and her Bambi legs failed her occasionally. I believe she lost an entire round by slipping.
Well, that happened multiple times this night. This suddenly reminded me because it was the first fight it happened. Someone fucking greased up that octagon in Vegas because it wasn't only her. It was all the way in even the main card, who was the Charles and Armin fight. Armin, first round, almost lost it just by falling over. And I swear there was one other fight that exact same thing happened. Someone just lost their footing.
Yeah. I mean, it could. I really do think some of those logos on the mat of the octagon probably change texture as you walk across. So it could be that there's actually just slippery spots. Brought to you by Prime Energy, brought to you by Manscaped, brought to you by Dude Wipes. Gotta watch out, dude. Don't step on the Dude Wipes logo. You will slip.
But Marina definitely was like Bambi. Like, she fell down multiple times throughout this fight. And it was a split decision. I mean, I did think she did almost submit Jessica at one point, but it was a split decision. It was just kind of like a
bog standard WMMA fight. Not too much interesting going on. We must lament, though, the loss of Jessica's dog, if you will. Okay, actually, this was one of the funnest fights in the card. Up next, Bobby Green versus Jim Miller.
This went completely opposite the way you thought it would go.
But it started going the way I thought it was going to go. Bobby Green, really not that long ago, was flatlined by Jalen Turner, and I was really afraid that Bobby was taking this fight because Jim Miller has been knocking guys out with his old manpower. Now, that's how this fight started, by the way. If you didn't see Bobby Miller on skates getting fucking hit by Jim Miller in the start of this fight, then you weren't watching. But the longer this fight went on, the more Bobby was able to pull away and use what I call intelligent mean mugging. Now, what Bobby Green does is he is a pressure counter puncher. He applies pressure to his opponent so that they strike at him, and then he counters those strikes. It's a very simple strategy. You poke at your opponent, you prod, and you agitate until they try to hit you, and you retaliate critically, catastrophically. And his counters were very effective. Jim Miller is old. It is true. He's 40 years old. But in the words of my sister-in-law, he's losing more blood than I did during labor. So it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I was surprised he made it the whole fight too. You could see he's like, we gotta have one of the early prelims just dump blood all over the octagon for the rest of the fucking fights.
Yeah. Well, fuck, maybe that's why it was so slippery. They're all slipping on Jim Miller's blood.
That is true. It would have been the fight right after was when the slipping started. So it was Jim Miller donating himself to the octagon for some funny moments there. But right. Yeah, that was really one-sided. The most impressive thing is
Jim Miller's blood to bless the octagon for the evening.
I mean, props to Jim Miller for not dying when it seemed like he would throughout basically every time after like the first minute. Because he had the first minute or two there and then it was all over.
Pretty much, yeah. And
Bobby was just walking towards him like some sort of fucking Terminator.
Well, but that's exactly it, is that's not how Bobby Green was doing it. What Bobby Green does is nonstop intimidation, fronting, provocation. And he does this to make you mad or scared. If you're mad, you come at him and he can predict what you're going to do, like what Jim Miller did. Jim Miller rushed in to throw big strikes every single time because you think you can hit the guy. He's right there and he's taunting you. But a big part of this actually is that Bobby Green's hips are behind where his torso is. So he's taunting you and hanging it in front of you so that he can lean back and counter strike as you come in. Or if you don't do anything, then he just starts to jab you and cut you up until you retaliate. You try to hit him, and then he counters your panic attack. It's very simple. It's very effective. He's done it forever. You can watch him do it to any number of lightweights. If you go back and do his catalog, he's been doing it for a long time. He is 37, but I love to see a good Bobby Green performance as well. Any more thoughts on Bobby Green versus Jim Miller?
Oh, no, he pretty much summarized it all there. Just one last shout out to Jim Miller for not dying in the octagon that night. That was rather brutal to watch. He went the distance too. It was a decision fight there. There was no knockout by Bobby Green. It was just Jim Miller standing up.
100%.
And last but certainly not least, but it was actually first, but the fight everyone forgot about.
It's true, and they probably shouldn't have, because this fight was actually pretty good. Deiveson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt. The ghost of Cody Garbrandt still showing up. That's not fair. If you watched his submission defense through several of the sequences where before Figueiredo does finally cinch up his submission, Cody Garbrandt survives.
I know, like he was wiggling out there for a while. Like it took, it was quite impressive. I think at the end he just gave up because he didn't have the strength left. I think he could have gotten out of that too, but he figured it wasn't worth it. Because it was right at the end of the second round too.
Yeah, well, and that was the sad thing, is that you did see Cody quit there. And you really can't fault him for it. If you do go back and watch the sequence of the submissions, plural, that he does defend, that are completely cinched up and deadly, I don't know. You really can't fault the guy for the loss. Figueiredo is very impressive. He's a great submission expert. He's got power in both hands. And Cody has had, it isn't Cody no love, it's Cody no luck. He's had no fucking luck for like 5 years. I'm very sorry. We were all pretty hyped when you beat the shit out of Dominic Cruz, but it might be over, man. It might be time to start coaching at Team Alpha Male. But yeah, that was UFC 300. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. We enjoyed watching it. And we'll see you guys next time when we talk shit about more fighters who actually know what they're doing and pretend we know too.
Yes, and I want you all to, if you look into it, you'll realize all the American WMMA fighters all have their own website for some reason, and no one else does. I've discovered this.
I wonder why that is.
Very good at marketing for some reason. Anyway,
all right, that's the end of the podcast. Goodbye.